Hello, welcome to the Analyst at the Ashes with me, Simon Hughes.
And me, Simon Mann.
The Ashes are lost, as I'm sure you probably already know. But I guess it was predictable, wasn't it? Actually, we should just celebrate England in a way, because they did make a game of it today. They went till after lunch. A couple of little rain breaks that helped them, I suppose. But there was some decent batting from England today. That 50 partnership between Will Jackson and Jamie Smith gave England a little bit of hope, actually, for an unlikely run chase, 435 to win. And, it's the biggest run chase in Test history if it was successful. At one little point, it was sort of on, potentially, when England were 337 for 7, they needed 98, and the Betfair odds said England 20% for this victory and 7% to win the Ashes. Obviously, Australia, huge favourites. Then there was a wicket, and then all hope was lost.
Well, I have to say, Oz, I thought it was 0% all day.
Then you're just a pessimist.
No, I'm a realist. Look at the result. England lost by 82 runs. But it was marginally encouraging from England today, wasn't it?
Yes.
And they stuck at it. They gave Australia a bit to think about. Jamie Smith played really well. He hit 4 fours off 4 consecutive balls. And I was thinking, I was actually commentating at the time. I was thinking, this is where it could be a problem for him, because the beans were going, he was playing attacking shots. And then the 5th ball, he tried to hit for 4 as well. Hit it up in the air, out to Cummins at mid-on, and that was just about it. 285 for 7. But they had batted really well until that point, and they were past the new ball as well. So the new ball had been taken. I think it was about the 5th over with the new ball. It was a really disappointing end. And, it was, I say no percent chance. If they'd kept on going, then I think Australia might have got a bit twitchy. But it wasn't to be. And England, in this game, been outplayed, and they were outplayed in different ways in the first 2 Test matches. In a way, they handicapped themselves, I think, especially in the first game. I think the pink ball game in Brisbane, the drop catches, but Australia were better than them. It was a good Test match, this, actually, wasn't it? It was a good game of cricket. We had 3 scores in around about the mid 3:30.
The pitch was very good.
And the pitch was good. Yeah, there was something there for the bowlers. You had to work, but if you kept on working, you could get something out of it. And where England lost this game, as we all know, their first innings batting.
Yeah, they were 150 runs short, absolutely, when they had first use of the pitch, or at least had an early use of the pitch. So we'll hear from both Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum during this podcast about their thoughts, their feelings post-match. McCullum was interesting, actually, and we'll hear from him saying that maybe they did get their preparations a bit wrong. We'll come to that in a bit. I just want to thank you, actually, first. You saved me last night, because I was struggling with my Airbnb. Couldn't get the mailbox to get into the key, to get into this flat. So I had nowhere to stay last night on my birthday. And you kindly came and helped me and found me a hotel, which was your hotel, where in the morning I happened to have breakfast and coffee, at least, with the 2 wives of 2 partners of the men out there who were batting today, Jamie Smith and Will Jacks. Their 2 female partners were having breakfast with Jamie Smith's young baby. And, they both said, we're hoping, and it's been hard. And, Anna, the Will Jacks partner, just sort of saying, he's had it so tough. But actually, they both came out with a lot of credit today. And Will Jacks in particular, Jamie Smith has looked a little bit like rabbit in the headlights and compulsive hooking, but he chose the right moments to put the pressure back on the bowlers today till he was out. And Jacks played a very obdurate role and really got sort of stuck in, didn't it? And they've played a really smart game. It's a shame it's taken them till this match to sort of understand how to, I suppose, nuance the Bazball approach and take the aggressive option, but at the right time.
Well, I think that if they'd played in the way they played in this Test match and the first Test match, we might have been talking about something different here. Certainly not the Ashes lost after 3 games. It needed some adjustment, some refinement in Perth, didn't it? In the first inning, certainly, but also in the second inning. So many players think about caught on the boundary. Just play, just stay out there, wear the opposition down. This is what they tried to do in this game. Certainly in the second innings. They tried to do it in the first innings as well. Ben Stokes and that partnership with Jofra Archer, they put on a century for the 9th wicket. I mean, that doesn't happen very often. So look, cricket's been played in a particular way for 150 years. Come to Australia, and they are a tough team in the home conditions. You kind of have to adjust, and they didn't adjust early enough. And we'll hear from Brendan McCullum about perhaps approach, but also preparation, writing a coach in that first test match. It's undone them. It's undone the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, they've not been able to stitch it back together.
I mean, one of the lines that Brent McCullum comes up with actually is he wanted players to be immersed in, this is his quote, immersed in the situation and transfer pressure onto the opposition at the appropriate time. He felt that until now, they haven't really been able to do that until the last couple of days. And actually,
So they've tried to transfer that pressure too quickly.
too early, yeah. And look, but
hasn't that,
I mean, it does seem like common sense, which isn't all that common, doesn't it?
But is one thing I get frustrated about when I hear that. Well, isn't he the coach? Isn't that how you explain it to the players? Are the players interpreting it in the wrong way? I think that's the question I have. Right.
I think the simple sort of answer here is that not many of these players have been out here. In fact, Anna, Will Jack's father, said, Will was only been out here when he was about 19 playing Big Bash, and he was in a much earlier stage of his career. You need to be out here to experience the hostility, the aggression, the abrasiveness, the relentlessness of Australian cricket.
Which is something you said before the series, actually, didn't you, in terms of the preparation?
And I said that, and I've written this, actually one of the best preparations for the Ashes is to come out here and play club cricket. When you're 19, 20. So any young cricketer watching or listening, if you have the chance to come and play in Australia, take it. Even if you're playing in the second 11 in a club match in wherever it is in Australia, it's a huge learning curve, a fast learning curve. It hardens you as a professional cricketer, and it definitely hardened me.
Yeah. Well, there are a few who are doing it, aren't they? Archie Vaughan is playing out here. He's actually
Josh DeCaries.
He's playing actually in Adelaide, isn't he? Yeah. So there'll be others as well.
Yeah.
Who are doing that. But it's a good thing to get used to it.
I mean, it's not the same as an Ashes Test match, clearly, playing club cricket in Australia, but it just gets you used to their methods and their approaches to the game and how relentless they are and how to unpick that in some way or other. It's a very difficult thing to fast track it, to come out here and to be pitched straight into a Test match and suddenly be able to perform against these seasoned, hardened cricketers, Naldo, the Nathan Lyons and the Scott Bolands, I feel like they've been doing the same thing over and over again, year on year. And they know their game inside out. And they sort of almost smile when you try and take them on and be a little bit kamikaze and just think, well, that's not going to last long. And, until you play in a slightly smarter way and kind of play them at their own game a little bit, kind of see them off. I mean, yes, okay, you need to put pressure back on them at some point, but not too early. And Zach Crawley's innings yesterday was a really good tempoed innings. And, both McCullum and Stokes both said after the day today that England played the last 2 days, whereas in earlier games, they've seemed a bit frozen, a bit frigid, and haven't allowed their sort of natural tempos to flow.
I thought in Perth they were just too aggressive.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean,
impatient.
Yeah. Marnus Labuschagne said it after the game today. If you've been chasing 300 in Perth, 350, that would have been a big problem. Okay, they were 200 for 2, but the chase is completely different. If it's 300, 350, it's completely different. So they weren't that far away. They were one decent batting session away from setting that game up. If they'd even had 100 for 3 session in that middle session on the second day in Perth, with a bit of common sense in their batting, then they would have made it mighty difficult for Australia to chase those runs. Now, that isn't my conclusion. That is the conclusion. Not Travis Head, you said it. From Marnus Labuschagne, you said it. So, there we go. You get harsh lessons learned too late. But I think my point is, I think my frustration is, could you not see that before the series started? Could you not see that was a possibility on that sort of surface and perk? Anyway, look, it's easy to talk. We've got to go out there and do it. And there are 2 games left. I could actually hear Ben Stokes afterwards saying, 2 games left. We are, we know people are coming out to watch us. We're fully committed to, trying to do everything we can to get some wins in this series. I think there's a fear, and it could happen, of course, the whole thing could disintegrate and it could end up 5-0. But actually, there are a few cracks there in this Australian team.
Nathan Lyons.
For example, I mean, he's not going to play in the rest of the series, is he? He's got to be out because if you've got a hamstring injury, he's just not going to recover in time. listening to Pat Cummins afterwards, he came back for this game. He kind of, just listening in the pre-match press conference, you sense that he was rushed back to play, or he rushed back to play in this game, because he said normally you'd think about a 4-month comeback. But they've done it in 6 or 7 weeks, so you wonder whether he's going to play in the next match as well. And Mitchell Stark, I mean, what is he, mid-30s now? He's got to be running on empty as well, surely. He's got to be running on empty.
But he proved his champion.
Absolutely.
Didn't he?
Yeah,
he finished the game off with those couple of wickets. Brilliant catches by Labuschagne as well, and both Stokes and McCullum admitting that Australia, as in often heard England captains and coaches say, Australia outplaying England in all departments, batting, bowling and fielding, catching, etc. Let's just hear from Ben Stokes briefly, because I thought one of the interesting things he said was that there has been progress in this series and he was happier with this man. And that some of the messaging from the first 2 games had sort of sunk in, and that England definitely improved, and this was the best game they played in this series so far.
Knowing now that we can achieve what we set out to do here is obviously incredibly disappointing. Now, I guess it moves over into what else do we have in front of us? We've still got 2 games to go in the series. There's still a hell of a lot to play for. Us as individuals, us as a team. Obviously, walking out there and playing for England is, a good enough thing in itself. So, we still got so much more to play for, and we ain't gonna, turn around and kick the stumps over because we've lost the series here. Because, there's still so much more to play for in the series. Although we can't go back with the goal that we came out here to do. I think it's quite simple for me to that Australia have been able to execute batting, bowling and fielding a lot more than us on a much more consistent basis. And those are 3 things that cricket is built around. It's scoring runs, taking wickets and catching catches. They've outdone us in all 3 of those things. So they've just been able to execute, everything a lot better than us over a much more consistent period of time. We've had moments where we've been, very good, but Australia have been a lot better than us on, over a much longer period of time in the series so far. Getting used to, conditions for the first time is obviously always going to be tricky. But again, as I think I said earlier, like Jamie today went out and played. The situation that he was faced with, even last night, the way in which he knew when he went out to bat that the most important thing for the team was him being not out at the end of the day and starting again with Jaxie this morning, because you're not going to win that game in half an hour. He was going to win that game this morning for us, or this afternoon. It looked like that those 2 were about to pull off a heist for us because they played so well. And talking about the absorbing and then applying it back on, I thought they did that so well. And then that moment where Smudger in particular thought, right, this is that moment where I need to put something back on there, when the field had came up to him. The newer, harder balls obviously a little bit easier to be able to score off. And fortunately, in that moment, he just wasn't able to execute what he wanted to do. But everything building up to that and that partnership, I thought was absolutely outstanding from where the game was at since and what they needed to do. I remember when you're chasing total down, you still have to find yourself ways to be able to score runs and put things into your favour as much as you possibly can. And we all know that that particular shot that Smudge got out to is a very, very big strength of his. And sometimes, you do get out to your strengths, but everything that he did building up to his dismissal today, I thought was outstanding. Read the situation beautifully, played it accordingly, and then when he felt it was time to put something back onto the Australian bowling attack, it just didn't come off. So that's cricket, it's sometimes it doesn't work, and it's pretty devastating. There's sometimes moments or sometimes things that happen where, best thing that can happen is you make a mistake and you learn from it. And I think some of the mistakes that we have seen in this series before this game, sit back and watching the guys try and operate in this game in particular, you can see that it's sort of starting to click, but also making sure that we aren't restricting people's mindset towards how they best feel that they're going to be successful for the team. Again, Zach's knock at the top of the order was not something that you would necessarily associate with Zach, but he played that situation that was in front of him again. That's where I think the big learning that I've seen from individuals in this game, it's this bit that's almost an evolution for some guys in this team. You never want to take away their ability to go out and score their runs in the way that they feel is best going to suit them. But then, marrying the skills and the ability that they have up with the mentality that it takes to be successful as an international sportsman, you put those two together, and I know that we've got a very, very exciting test team who can, be even more successful than we have been over the last 4 years.
So that's Ben Stokes talking, glumly, with a fair amount of heavy frustration and disappointment, understandably, after this latest defeat. And Brendan McCullum sounded a positive note on the field afterwards. I stood with a bunch of other journalists and he addressed this. And, I thought one of the interesting things he said was when he was responding to a question about preparation and hadn't them got a pre-series preparation right.
Look, when you're coming down here, Australia's a very strong team in their own conditions. We thought we were going to be competitive and we were going to be able to see some of those pressure moments, and we haven't been able to do it. I mean, if we look at with the ball, we probably haven't quite been relentless enough with our accuracy and challenging on the surface in the areas that we need to. With the back, we haven't scored enough runs. We haven't quite found the tempo we need to operate at either. And in the field, we've let opportunities go. So, I think they are the instances. You look back on some things, of course you do as a coach. Ultimately, you're responsible for how you get your side ready and how you prepare them. And I think I had conviction, and we had conviction in our methods in terms of preparation, and not just leading into the first test, but also in between tests. And I look back now and I think, did we need more leading into that first, and do we need less leading into the second? And they are the changes which, over time you look back on and say, if you're in that situation again, would you do it differently? And retrospectively, we lost 3-0, so you'd probably say, but there was room for change there. So again, you put your hand up as a coach and say that you might not have got that right. But at the same time, I did feel it would give us our best chance because it has previously. But obviously sitting there 3-0, it didn't work. We've never said we're going to go out and try and score at 5.5, 6 and over. For us, it's about being able to allow ourselves to get in the headspace where we're completely clear and transparent, and we're immersed in the situation in the moment. So you can identify risk, you identify where the game's at, what's required, and you're able to absorb the pressure you need to, but transfer it in the right ways. And sometimes against the accuracy as well, it can be your friend. It's just we haven't quite been able to find a way throughout that time. But I think if you look at the series, I think they've scored a lot faster than what we have, and we haven't been able to find that free-flowing nature that we're probably used to. But that's something again you got to look back on and say what could we have done differently. But I do think over the last 2 days, and we've played. I think for the first 9 days, I felt like we were incredibly tight and we were tense and we were desperate to perform and to succeed, and that desperation's great, but not if it puts the handbrake on your ability to let your talent and your game come out. And it's only been the last 2 days where I think we've really found that space, and hence it's been our 2 better days of the tour.
Steve Smith said before the tour that maybe the nagging medium paces, the Scott Boland types, might be more effective here than pace, which is the thing that England has sort of emphasised. Do you think, in retrospect, it would have been more useful to have more, just line and length bowlers rather than what I call attacking bowlers?
Look, I think we've got line length bowlers as well. And you also look at who's the highest wicket taker at the moment in the series. It's Mitchell Starc. He bowls late 140s and he swings the ball. He's an attacking type of bowler. So, it's horses for courses, and sometimes if you've got the pace, you want accuracy, and if you've got the accuracy, you want pace. So you've got to try and balance that out. But again, we came here with a squad of players who we felt would be very competitive, and we've been outplayed by Australia. They have been formidable. They've been absolutely brilliant throughout the series, and they've capitalised on the key moments, and hence why they're sitting 3-0 up and they won the Ashes. So for us, we haven't been at our best, and when you're coming up against a team that's as precise as what Australia are and relentless as what they are, then you get exposed.
I think one of the interesting things that we've heard from the England camp since we've been in Adelaide is actually a bit more honesty, basically. And Harry Brock talking about shots earlier in the series, they were horrible shots. For example, Ben Stokes, I suppose, admittedly at the end of Brisbane saying you haven't been quite strong enough. Australia's no country for weak men. And Brendan McCullum saying, look, we may well have got the preparation wrong. We've not heard that before, have we? He was saying they got the preparation wrong, and before Brisbane saying actually over practice, which is kind of doubling down on what he was saying. But we kind of explained that actually you don't need 5 days. 5 days is a lot to go into test match, but actually before the series as well. So there's an admission, isn't there, that if you're 3-0 down and you've got half decent side, reasonable side coming to Australia with 3-0 down after 3, you have got some things wrong, haven't you? And there's an admission they have. So at least they are now saying that, so they're not kind of, I think there's been that thing, a lot of doubling down before, which is frustrated, people back in the UK, and people come out to watch them here, what do you mean? What are you saying? Of course that's wrong. Of course this is wrong. It's obvious. Just kind of at least be honest with us. You just say we got it wrong, and then you have a bit more credibility if that's the case, if you say that. Is that fair?
Yeah, of course. And I think people will listen to you more if you do front up, actually. McCullum is an honest guy, there are one or two phrases he uses which are a bit sort of, you think, what is he actually talking about?
What does that mean?
Sort of, immerse yourself in the situation, but put pressure on. I don't
Run
know.
towards danger?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a few, but anyway, I think, he's tried his best, and in the end, he's an engaging guy. I'm sure that England wanted to play in his spirit, but just hasn't quite. And credit Australia really. Both Stokes and McCullum basically saying this Australian team have been superb. They played probably above themselves, and England have played below themselves, and they've put so much pressure on England with their bowling, especially, and their fielding. I think Australia's batting has been a bit iffy, bailed out by the likes of Travis Head and obviously actually Mitchell Starc, Alex Carey. Those three guys have made up the bulk of the runs, and the middle order hasn't looked great. The opening pair haven't been particularly effective. So there's a few weak chinks in that Australian makeup that I think England are hopeful they can expose now that there's a bit of improvement in the team, and now that they're realistic about the challenges. Then I think they could make an impact and finally win a test match here for the first time since 2011.
Yeah, Australia have scored some centuries, haven't they? And England they've got some scores, but they haven't really gone on. Only Joe Root with that innings in Brisbane, but Travis had 170 here.
That's a big score.
It's a huge score. He was dropped on 99. You look at areas where England have let Australia off the hook in this game. They dropped Khawaja on 5. They dropped Head on 99. Think how many runs that is. It's a heck of a lot of runs that you squandered there. The Alex Carey Snicko thing as well, which cost England some runs as well. So there are areas they can look after. Drop catches. But today, Australia have caught really well. They caught well throughout the series. I think Andy Zolson was saying there was only missed one sort of obvious chance in the series, a really clear chance. So actually, Cameron Green dropped one today, didn't he? That slip gully area. So that they have been superior in that as well. And England just made too many mistakes.
But they've been forced into the mistakes a lot.
Well,
sometimes they've been self-inflicted.
No, I think they've been self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Australia have been relentless for their bowling, and they won this match on the second day with their batting, with their bowling, didn't they? They bowled really well, and so that wasn't so much self-inflicted. 5 drop catches at Brisbane. Big drives caught on the boundary. There's how many players caught on the boundary in the series? You can't get away with it. What everyone said, these boundaries are vast. Don't take it on. Oh, I'll take it on. That's what I mean by self-inflicted mistakes. So I think there have been self-inflicted mistakes, and I think that ultimately the preparation hasn't been good enough, and they have now admitted that.
Paid the price for it.
Yeah. It's not a new story, though, yours, is it? I mean, this is 16 defeats and 18 test matches since they won in Sydney. And Zoltan was saying to me, where is this, that? 6 of the last 7 series in Australia, they've been 3-0 down after 3. So I mean, it's not a new story. I think, but the point was, it's this time, it was to be different.
And the one time it was different, 2010-11, England spent a month here before the first test and properly preparing. And they didn't listen, and for a number of different reasons. That has to cause a rethink whenever if they get invited back for the 5 tests.
Listen, they'll be back. They'll be back for another 5 test series. I mean, this ground is a record attendance. I think it's been like something like 230,000 people here. I mean, the coffers are ringing. I mean, people still seem to come. You know, even
they do. And funnily enough, I sat when there was the winning moment. And by the way, this is the winning moment when Australia sealed the Ashes. When Tongue Nick won there to Labuschagne, caught that slip, and there was always the celebrations kicked off. I was sat right down just to our left with a couple of Aussies, and I said, before the final wicket, I said, how important is it for you still to beat England? And they said it's still the most important thing. We love it. We love the English coming here. We want to beat Homs more than any other team. He said it's more fun having England here. He said South Africans haven't got a sense of humour. He said you guys we have some good banter with you. Yeah, we love having you here. Obviously, we love beating you even more, but they do like this idea of the greatest, oldest rivals.
So don't tell me they say we like 5 close games, do they, or something like that?
They did say they wanted a close.
We like to beat you in all those 5 close matches. Yeah. Listen, one thing we said yesterday, because actually we thought we weren't going to get much cricket today, and England, fair play to them, they came out and they really battled hard today. So there was quite a lot of cricket to talk about, and obviously the reaction to talk about. The admission from Brendan McCullum, the preparation hasn't been good enough for this tour, and just talking about England's approach as well. Perhaps we haven't got that right. But we also asked for your comments, didn't we? We said, send us some comments and some of your questions. And just actually on kind of like what England do from here, because there's going to be some fallout as time goes on. Inevitably, there's going to be speculation about the future of the England hierarchy. But here's one from Simon Morris. He says, Key, McCullum, Stokes, Drskothic, Saker and Patel, that's Jean Patel, must all be shown in the door now. I've been following England since the 70s. This is the biggest mess I can remember. It's certainly not the biggest mess I can remember. I can remember much bigger messes of 1989 when they lost 4-0 at home, supposedly the worst Australian side ever to come to England. And they played about 29 different players. And then there was a South African rebel tour. That was a much bigger mess. And Maidment says, reasonably led, now badly selected, appallingly coached. NZ deplorable. Sack the coaching staff. Sack the top 5 batsmen. Start afresh. The current crop, except for Stokes, are not equipped for this level. And Faster Out 777 says the breathtaking optimism prior to the series is really the telling issue for England. But also Louise Davis changed Brendan McCullum for a coach who selects players on proven track record and instills discipline. I mean, talking about Bashir and Bethel, they don't have a track record, but they're still selected. So those are some of your views. I mean, they're around, the hierarchy and Brendan McCullum's future. Inevitably, there are going to be question marks over his future. Perhaps an admission that they can refine the way they prepare and play might save him. But if you lose 5-0, then it's pretty hard to say someone loses 5-0. Although or do we go back to that point I made at the end of the podcast a couple of days ago? What was it? 6 of the last 7 series, they've been 3-0 down after 3. It always happens here. Do we overreact to what happens in Australia? One other thing, just before you answer those comments, is that Brendan McCullum said this is the series of everyone's lives. So they were kind of building towards it as well. But this was the goal, wasn't it? And they have failed in that goal.
I don't blame coaches. I blame players. Coaches can only lead the horse to the water, and the players have got to do it. It's all Stokes kept on saying what you do out there on the field. The coach can set a sort of agenda and a style and so on, but the players have got to deliver it. And some of the playing has been inadequate. I wouldn't be sacking all the coaches. I don't really see what that achieves. It just achieves instability. I think some of the selections were poor. Now, Andy Maidment here, the man you mentioned, has said here, we've all been on Rob Key's ego trip for too long. This is him saying it, by the way, not me. A keeper who doesn't keep for his county, a spinner who doesn't bowl for his county, a spinner in inverted commas meaning Jacks, and a potential number 3, i.e. Bethel, who's played one championship game all season, the apparent first choice spinner who can't even get a county gig and ends up unselected at Bashir. So, four good points there about selection. I mean, Jamie Smith, I get why they picked him actually ahead of Ben Fotis and others. I think he is someone who is going to be incredibly improved by this experience. It's slightly taken him aback early on. I do think he's a bit of a compulsive hooker, and maybe that needs a bit of sort of solving, or at least kind of shaving. But I think he's a fantastic talent. I was listening to Ricky Ponting today talking about him saying, you can see the natural talent, just needs to feed through an innings a bit more. So I would stick with Jamie Smith. Will Jacks was pressed into service here as a spinner, partly because of Bashir's, disappointing performances in the warm-up games. And England have stuck with that selection. That was a mistake. And I think they're almost admitting that now, aren't they, by not picking him. So I think that was a grave error. And they should have picked someone who they could really rely on, whether it was Jack Leach, whether it was Liam Dawson, whether they promoted Tom Hartley. But somehow they needed somebody they could really rely on. And they didn't have that. And so that was a weakness. Selecting, if they do, Bethel as a number 3, having not played in county, but if they mismanaged his summer as well, there's a sort of so many kind of linked up circumstances which have caused this situation. But I think now is the time to get Bethel in. I don't care what the Australians say about, he never made a first class 100. So what? Some of the greatest players in history play when they were 19 or 20 and hadn't made many first class 100s and came through. Had someone like Alistair Cook, came in when he was 21, hadn't made many first class 100s, and made a couple, but not too many. So I don't buy that. You've got to be able to recognise talent and actually the opportunity to play him in the environment, even if he doesn't succeed immediately, will be a very good learning experience. So, but I do think the two things they've got wrong are the spinner and the preparation. And we said that right at the start. They've got to prepare better. I thought what Mark Taylor said on our podcast yesterday, where he said you've got to get used to the extra bounce first in Western Australia, and then you can adjust to the lower bounce here. Absolutely spot on. So England should have come here much earlier and had proper practice, either middle practice or matches, to get used to the conditions, and they would have played much.
Yeah, and also, preparation for a pink ball test match. England don't play any pink ball test cricket, and then you suddenly have to play one at the Gabba. So you've got to try to do something about that in your long-term planning.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, we're going to play a pink ball test match in Brisbane. Let's kind of see how it goes. We'll be one match into the series and we'll play to Perth and we'll have had some practice there. You've really got to somehow give your players that, experience under lights against proper opposition. And there was the 2-day game, but it was quite tight into Brisbane. And then they ended up having 3 players who'd never played a pink ball match, playing a pink ball test match against Australia in Brisbane. It doesn't work, does it? As we saw.
And another thing, by the way, about the preparation, bowlers need to bowl in these conditions and get used to bowling 2, 3, 4 spells before you get to a test match. You can't just come to a test match having hardly bowled. Most of that attack had played barely a first class match for several months. Atkinson, Archer, Wood, etc. You had hardly played. The Australian attack, they played between 2 and 4 Shield games before the first test. Stark only played a couple, but the others had played more. And they were in bowling rhythm. You don't get into bowling rhythm in the nets. So you have to play matches, especially out here. And you have to find that right line and length to bowl here and to keep hitting here on your 3rd and 4th spells. That is a sort of hardening exercise, which you need to do before the test starts.
Yeah. Well, they somehow need to get that right in the future, don't they? I don't guarantee anything because so many England sides come in. Actually, Singularity 4049 on YouTube.
Great name.
Yeah, I know. I was actually prefer it if you imagine with their proper names on there, so you actually knew who people were. But it's an interesting point. He said, isn't playing in Australia the toughest assignment? Why be so critical of England when no other team would even be near favourites in Australia? And it's a perfectly good point, isn't it? This is, along with India away, although not so much recently. There's a couple of teams have won there recently. England, by the way, got hammered 4-1 there. So it might be an indication of their ability to come here and play in a high pressure series. I mean, it's a good point though, isn't it? Yeah, coming here is just about the toughest assignment. Australia won percentage-wise more Test matches at home than any other team in the history of Test cricket. So it is a tough assignment. Were the expectations just too high before the series?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were, and I take my share of the blame. I don't mean 3-2, Australia 3-1. You've got a chance of being right. I've obviously got it miles wrong. I was optimistic. I thought England's attack would be more effective here, but actually it's proved to be a place where, slightly slower medium paces are more effective. I mean, obviously, Brendan McCullum did say to me in that interview that, Mitchell Starc has been the leading wicket taker, and he is an attacking bowler. You need a bit of both. But you need some bowlers you can rely on, and England haven't really had that. And one other thing about coaches, David Saper was part of the coaching group that won the Ashes here in 2010 when England toured here. He's a good man. I wouldn't just be binning him. What I do think England need is a fielding coach again, because they've actually got rid of that. I mean, I think McCullum has taken on a bit of the responsibility of that. But, Australia's fielding was outstanding, and England's was okay. They took some good catches, but they also dropped a number. And I don't think their fielding drills and the focus on fielding has been intense enough, actually. And you need that to back up the bowlers. So that's one area. I mean, McCullum has sort of reduced the coaching and sort of backroom staff. I think they need a specialist field.
Yeah. So, what about the future? Well, the immediate future is 2 more Test matches in the series, where they desperately need something from the series in the bed if they possibly can. And there were signs in the last couple of days that they might be able to compete on a level with Australia. Ultimately, Australia winning here, and also I will be interested to see what sort of team Australia put out at Melbourne. But they are creasing a bit, and they have been actually creaking throughout the series, to be honest, selection wise, but. They have those backup players who are tough, mentally tough, and they've been able to get the job done. And some quality performances from the likes of Travis Head and Alex Carey and Mitchell Starc down the order when it mattered. But further forward, there will be some kind of a review into the series right there, and there will be some sort of assessment about what should happen at the top of the England management, which coaches should stay, what about the captain, what about the director of cricket. Inevitably, that will happen. I think, what do I think about it? I think, see how it goes in the next 2 games first. Yeah. And then take a deep breath and then consider it carefully about how you're going to approach it. I mean, you could argue that if Brendan McCullum is open to kind of changing, if you like, from learning.
I think from listening to him talking after the game, I think he has accepted the blame for some things, and they are trying to learn. And he was honest with that.
Yeah. So that's one. I mean, it may be that it might be the end of the series. He just says, actually, look, I came to try to do this. I haven't done it. I'm going to hold my hand up and go. You may have a situation like that, or offer to go. So that is perfectly possible. That can happen. And then there might be a lot of people out there saying, yeah, hooray, take the rest of them with you and all that sort of thing. I don't think you can just sort of tear everything up.
I agree. And actually,
it doesn't work. It's easy to go on social media and say, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of all of them. A lot of them are all useless. They're not. No, they're not.
McCullum knows the game inside out, and he was a brilliant captain of New Zealand. That knowledge he's got can be still very valuable. It must be very wearing, though, when you lose 3-0, and obviously even more so, just demoralising if you lose 5-0. So you could sort of understand a change if that happens, but I sort of don't think it will. So let's end on a positive note, and we've had some great messages. One here from Bowling Gaz, who obviously is an Adelaide local, who loves Nathan Lyon, known as Gary. And Bowling Gaz is the sort of line that Alex Carey comes out with almost every ball. Of course, you won't be doing that anymore because Nathan Lyon's not going to play anymore of this series. But anyway, he says, is there a better test venue than the Adelaide Oval? And I think that's a really good question. And actually, I don't think there is. I mean, that sounds like sacrilege as a person who lived half their life at Lord's playing for Middlesex and also as a journalist and broadcaster. But Lord's is special. But I think Adelaide's got so much about it. I love this ground. I love the old scoreboard, which is still there in its big pride and dawn. And you can just see a bit of a cathedral behind. But I love the new stands as well. The fact that you've got escalators taking you up to the media centre. All the people, all the staff are absolutely wonderful. There's so many great vantage points. It's like a sort of festival outside with lots of marquees and enjoying themselves. The walk into the stadium over the river is very easy, and lots of people filtering in, and there's lots of sort of stuff going on outside. And obviously the pitch itself lends itself to great cricket. So I think all in all, it's a fantastic place to watch cricket and play cricket.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I really enjoyed coming here. And I said at the start, I think it's been a really good test match as well. Yeah, this was the first game of the series. I think we kind of whetted our appetite for the series, wasn't it? But obviously, it's the denouement as far as the Ashes are concerned. Yeah, it's the pitch means that there's something for everybody, but mainly more on the batting side, on the bowling side. City, it's got always restaurants and bars, and it's very close by. The lovely walks, the greenery. What more is there? Well, I suppose England supporters might say an England victory quite nice. They had one in 2010-11 when they won this grand. Of course, that was the series the last time where they won any test matches in Australia. So there we go. I've got a couple of questions for you, Jos, before we go. What are the Betfair odds now for England winning the Ashes? Okay, they are
very good.
Big fat zero, aren't they? And where can people watch fourth test match?
It's on TNT Sport, starting very late on Christmas Day. So just when you've had your turkey and you've had your champagne and probably a gammon or a big ham or something like that, and you're just about feeling a bit stuffed, stay up and watch the first session of play from the MCG. And let's hope England win the toss. Because actually, one of the things Stokes, he said in his press conference was he wished he lost the first two tosses and won the third.
Yeah.
So win the fourth test toss, Stokesy, and maybe England start off on a better foot.
There's one more thing I want to say, and that's a comment from Judd Lofthouse, who says, "You two remind me of Hinge and Brackett." I'm not sure whether that's a criticism or a compliment.
I think it says we look very old. So I'll try a little bit of manipulation on our appearance in the next podcast. If you're watching on video, make us look a bit younger.
Apparently on AI, you can do that, can't you? You make us look younger.
So we're coming.
Okay, look, everyone. Sorry, the Ashes are gone, but at least it's Christmas coming. So happy Christmas to all our listeners and viewers. And we will speak to you from the MCG on Boxing Day.